Marvin Gaye, one of the most iconic and transformative figures in music history, passed away in 1984 under tragic and deeply mysterious circumstances. His legacy as a revolutionary artist in the world of soul and R&B is undeniable. But beneath the success, fame, and adoration lay a deeply troubled soul. A man who lived a life of emotional turmoil, complex relationships, and inner battles. What was it about Marvin's life that left such a profound impact on his music and his untimely death? His upbringing in Washington, D.C., set the stage for the emotional conflicts he would carry with him throughout his life. Born on April 2, 1939, in a cramped apartment in the Fairfax Public Housing Project, Marvin's early life was marked by hardship, poverty, and the tension of growing up in a strict religious household. His father, Marvin Gaye Sr., was a Pentecostal minister who imposed harsh rules on his children, believing in a strict, punitive form of discipline. Marvin often spoke about the oppressive nature of his father's authority, comparing living under his roof to living with a cruel king. While Marvin found solace and a sense of escape in music, his relationship with his father remained fraught with tension. The dynamic between father and son was complicated by Gaye Sr.'s own personal struggles with alcohol, mood swings, and the secretive nature of his personal life. It was revealed by Marvin's sister, Zola, that their father secretly wore women's clothing and struggled with alcohol, further adding to the instability in the family home. Yet, it was through the church and his early exposure to gospel music that Marvin began to hone his musical skills. At just 4 years old, he began singing in the church where his father played piano, cementing music as a critical part of his life. His mother, Alberta Gaye, was a domestic worker who offered Marvin the emotional support he needed, nurturing his dreams of becoming a singer. As Marvin grew older, he developed a love for secular music, a passion his father strictly opposed. By the time he was in his teens, Marvin had already developed his distinct vocal style, performing in school plays and local choirs. He was recognized for his vocal talent early on, but it wasn't until he joined the Motown family in the early 1960s that his true musical genius began to be recognized. During his early career, Gaye struggled to break free from the control of his father, who continued to impose his strict, often oppressive rules on him. The young Marvin's desire for independence and artistic freedom would clash with the expectations placed on him. In the early stages of his career, Gaye was marketed as a pop crooner, but he soon realized that he was meant for something more than just the superficial pop hits of the time. By the mid-1960s, Gaye started to experiment with his sound, blending gospel, jazz, and R&B in a way that no one had done before. His 1971 album, What's Going On, was a groundbreaking work that not only changed the direction of Gaye's career, but also marked a turning point in the history of soul music. The album's poignant social commentary about urban poverty, the Vietnam War, and civil rights resonated deeply with audiences and established Marvin Gaye as a visionary artist. However, despite his rising fame and success, Marvin's personal life was marred by an ongoing battle with substance abuse and a series of tumultuous relationships. His first marriage to Anna Gordy, the sister of Motown founder Berry Gordy, was strained from the start. Anna was much older than Marvin, and their marriage was further complicated by the couple's struggles to have children. Eventually, they adopted a baby boy, Marvin III, but the circumstances surrounding the adoption were shocking. It was later revealed that Marvin Gaye was the biological father of the child, as Denise Gordy, Anna's niece, was only 16 years old when she gave birth to Marvin III. This revelation caused a media firestorm and added more strain to Marvin's already unstable marriage. The public scandal surrounding the adoption and Marvin's personal life took a toll on him, and by the mid-1970s, his marriage to Anna had fallen apart. Marvin's second marriage to Janice Hunter, a woman much younger than him, didn't fare much better, and by 1979 they had separated, leaving Marvin in significant financial trouble. He was facing overwhelming debts, including alimony payments to both of his ex-wives, as well as back taxes owed to the IRS. It was during this period of financial collapse that Marvin created what would become one of his most famous albums, Sexual Healing. While the song and album brought him a resurgence in popularity, they didn't solve his personal problems. In fact, the pressure continued to mount as he grappled with his worsening drug addiction, mental health struggles, and increasingly erratic behavior. His battle with substance abuse was well known, and reports from those close to him indicate that Marvin was using a combination of cocaine and PCP, drugs that severely affected his mental state. Marvin's fear of being controlled by others only grew, and he became paranoid, convinced that people were out to harm him. This paranoia reached a peak during his Sexual Healing tour, where he became so consumed with fear that he hired bodyguards and insisted that his sister bring him water on stage to prevent it from being poisoned. As the tour continued, his physical and mental health deteriorated, and he eventually collapsed from exhaustion. Despite his growing fears, Marvin's success with sexual healing couldn't mask the deep sadness and trauma he was experiencing. His music, always a reflection of his personal struggles, became a form of therapy for him. But even as he gained recognition for his work, he remained a deeply troubled individual. By the time Marvin Gaye returned to his family home in Los Angeles, in the spring of 1984, he was already a shell of the man he once was. His deep-seated issues with his father, which had haunted him his entire life, were unresolved, and they would come to a head on the night of April 1st, 1984, after a heated argument between Marvin and his father, which escalated into a physical altercation. Marvin Sr. shot and killed his son with a handgun, an act that many believe was a culmination of years of emotional pain and unresolved anger. Marvin's final words, as recounted by his brother Frankie, indicated that Marvin had been ready to die. The tragic death of Marvin Gaye not only shocked the world, but also left behind a complicated legacy. Despite the financial and personal turmoil that defined his later years, his influence on music continues to be felt today. His estate, managed by his children, has worked tirelessly to preserve his legacy and ensure that his intellectual property and music continue to generate revenue, allowing his heirs to benefit from his immense contributions to music. The legal battle over the song Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke, Pharrell Williams, and T.I. was a key moment for the Gaye family, as they won a lawsuit that awarded them millions of dollars in royalties for the song's similarities to Marvin's 1977 hit Got to Give It Up. The victory, while bittersweet, was a testament to the enduring power of Marvin's music and the strength of his family in protecting his legacy. Marvin Gaye's legacy, though forever marked by tragedy, has transcended the circumstances of his death, living on in the hearts of millions of fans, musicians, and cultural critics. He was not just an entertainer, but a symbol of both artistic freedom and the complexity of human vulnerability. His music captured a profound spectrum of emotions: joy, love, despair, hope, and offered listeners a glimpse into his personal battles, a window into the chaos of his life that few artists dared to expose. He was a revolutionary, not just in his artistry, but in the way he used music as a platform for social change. What's Going On, released in 1971, remains one of the most powerful political and socially conscious albums in music history, addressing issues such as racial inequality, war, and environmental destruction at a time when America was embroiled in the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement. It wasn't just an album. It was a message that resonated with millions who were living through those tumultuous times. The album's creation was an act of defiance against Motown's traditional model of production, which typically dictated the direction of its artists. Gaye, feeling constrained by the label's pop-centric approach, refused to release any music unless he was given creative control. This bold move would shape the future of soul music, and What's Going On would go on to influence countless artists across multiple genres. The album's title track, with its mournful yet hopeful lyrics, became an anthem for a generation, reflecting not only Marvin's personal disillusionment with the world around him, but also his relentless desire to understand and address the problems affecting his society. It was one of the first major albums to feature songs that flowed seamlessly into one another, a trend that would later define many albums in the 1970s and beyond. However, despite the commercial and critical success of What's Going On, Marvin Gaye's personal life was in disarray, and the acclaim he received could not shield him from his increasing emotional and psychological turmoil. His battle with addiction, the destructive relationships he faced, and the pressures of maintaining his place in the musical pantheon ultimately contributed to the unraveling of the man behind the music. By the 1970s, as his personal life became more chaotic, his music took on darker, more introspective tones. He experimented with new sounds, moving into the realms of funk and jazz, but he was also deeply immersed in the world of sex, drugs, and depression. His album, Let's Get It On, released in 1973, marked a departure from his previous social commentary, showcasing his sensual side, and was met with immediate success. Yet the album's success came at a cost. Critics would later argue that Marvin's pursuit of physical pleasure and indulgence masked a deeper longing for emotional fulfillment, a longing that he couldn't find in his relationships or through the excesses he indulged in. The 1970s also saw the deterioration of his second marriage, a tumultuous relationship with Janice Hunter, which was complicated by his personal insecurities, financial instability, and obsessive behavior. As Marvin's debt grew, so did his sense of anxiety. His struggles with addiction intensified, and his mental health continued to decline. He sought solace in the idea of reclaiming his independence, trying to find peace amidst the chaos of his existence. But the pressures of his fame and financial troubles made it increasingly difficult for him to maintain any sense of stability. During this time, Marvin Gaye's struggle with depression became more pronounced, and he increasingly withdrew from the public eye. He had been a symbol of sexual charisma and romantic appeal, but behind closed doors, he was a man deeply conflicted and fragile. Yet it was through this struggle that Marvin managed to create some of his most iconic music. Sexual Healing, released in 1982, brought him back to the top of the charts, offering a moment of triumph in his otherwise turbulent life. The album's success was bittersweet for Marvin, as it symbolized the possibility of redemption, but also revealed the deep emotional and psychological wounds he had yet to heal. He had briefly found commercial success again, but his personal issues remained unresolved, and his addiction issues were exacerbated by his sense of isolation and paranoia. Throughout the early 1980s, Marvin Gaye remained in the media spotlight, but the contrast between the public adoration and the private struggles he faced was stark. His financial troubles continued to spiral, and his reliance on drugs and alcohol only deepened. His increasing sense of paranoia and disillusionment led him to a psychological breaking point. It was during this period of personal disintegration that Marvin would make the fateful decision to move back in with his parents in Los Angeles. On April 1, 1984, the emotional turmoil of his life finally reached its tragic conclusion. The confrontation between Marvin and his father that led to his death was, in many ways, the culmination of a lifetime of unresolved issues, including abuse, neglect, and unhealed wounds from both his childhood and adulthood. On that fateful day, after a violent altercation, Marvin Gaye Sr., in a fit of rage, shot his son in the chest. Marvin Gaye's death was a devastating blow to the music world, and it also marked the end of a complicated and troubled era in the history of soul music. Yet even in death, Marvin Gaye's influence endured. In the years following his passing, his family fought to preserve his estate, securing the rights to his music and ensuring that his legacy was not erased. They faced numerous challenges, including a long-running legal battle over the royalties of his music, notably in the lawsuit against Robin Thicke, Pharrell Williams, and T.I. over the song Blurred Lines, which was found to have copied elements from Marvin's Got to Give It Up. The case highlighted the enduring power of Marvin's creative genius and his family's efforts to protect his intellectual property. The case was settled in 2015, with Marvin's estate receiving millions in damages. The success of this case not only reflected Marvin's lasting influence on music, but also the ongoing fight to preserve his artistic legacy. Over the years, Marvin's music has been revisited, and his catalog has been celebrated by generations of listeners who continue to discover his groundbreaking work. His contributions to the music industry were recognized with posthumous awards, including multiple Grammy Awards and a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. His albums are regarded as some of the greatest in music history, and his music continues to be sampled, covered, and referenced by contemporary artists. Marvin Gaye's story is one of brilliance, tragedy, and an unyielding desire to push the boundaries of what music could do. His life, while marked by conflict and pain, produced some of the most beautiful and powerful music ever made, and his influence is still felt today. The legacy of Marvin Gaye is not just in the music he left behind, but in the cultural impact he had on the world. His voice, his passion, and his willingness to address the complexities of human existence will continue to inspire artists and listeners for generations to come. And while his life was tragically cut short, Marvin Gaye's music will live on, an eternal testament to his genius and the depth of his emotional landscape.